Zero cycle brain rot. Now, I know this is gonna get a lot of people, pretty mad, because this is one of those videos where you kind of call out people's skill issues, but I really do think that people vastly over exaggerate how much investment you need into some characters just for them being able to clear endgame content. Now, zero cycling is an entirely different ball game, right? Zero cycling requirements are obviously going to become much higher upcoming soon. However, even then, like, the newest units can all basically zero cycle at 4 cost or less, and anyone outside Amphorius probably needs like 5 or 6, right? And that's it. So that's zero cycling. You get an entire 5 cycles on average to clear, and if you already have one powerhouse team, well, you give yourself even more than 5 cycles to be able to clear the endgame content. One of the most common, takes I've been seeing as of late as a CC who is basically open to seeing everything his community says is that these days units feel incomplete. Now, this doesn't make sense to me because even version 2 units always felt incomplete. Now, hold your horses. I did not play this game during version 1. I started right before Penacony launched, okay? So don't take me as like, oh my god, look at this guy ignoring how bad the vertical investment was in version 1. I didn't even play the game back then, right? But I can compare version 2 to version 3, and they have the exact same bullshit in terms of like eidolons or signatures fixing issues, right? Like, for example, right now a lot of people are complaining about how Cyrene is legit garbage tier. I don't agree with this. I think that she is best in slot for almost all, if not all, the Chrysos heirs, despite the fact that the jumps may vary depending on the DPS she's being paired with. But a lot of people are over exaggerating her stacking issue to the point where they're acting like the character is legit useless at E0S0, which doesn't make sense to me. And then they're like, oh, I can't believe HSR went down this predatory route during version 3, as if Acheron's eidolons and signature isn't right fucking there, right? Acheron's E2 legit completely removed the dumbass nihility restriction she had, and at the time that was broken because there wasn't really a other Jiaoqiu level support, so it was genuinely a very promising E2 because it allowed you to run a harmony with Acheron or any other support with Acheron and not get punished for it, which was really nice. You also had her signature cone, which as well allowed her to inflict an extra stack or gain an extra stack for her ultimate whenever she used her skill, which would let her gain 2 stacks instead of just 1 stack. So very clearly this isn't something new to the game, but people are kind of pretending it is when it comes to my comment sections and shit. And I thought, you know what, is it really as bad as people are saying? So I went out of my way to use my E0S1 Phanon with an E0S0 Sunday, Don Hung, and RMC. Keep in mind, my Don Hung has 2k attack because I haven't bothered building him at all, and on top of this, he also only has half his traces leveled. My Sunday isn't speed tuned and he has terrible crit damage, and my Phanon is minus like 20% crit rate even with a Sunday and RMC on the team. And I was able to get a 2 cycle. That's right, a 2 cycle with that Phanon team with sustain, with those scuffed ass relics and investment. So I also went out of my way after this to check how an Acheron is doing, right? How well is an E0S0 Acheron doing with an E0S0 team these days? So I came across Swo Art Gaming, I think is how you pronounce it. That's their YouTube channel name, where they do all E0S0 only clears, I believe. And they had an Acheron clear against the current Japard side that I believe got a 3 cycle. It was an E0S0 Acheron with E0S0 Jiaoqiu, E0S0 Cypher, and then a Gallagher, right? So in total, it's 3 limited on the team, and it got a 3 cycle. Then they cleared Lygus with a Yun Li, Huo Huo, and I can't remember what other support team, and this one cleared Lygus within 5 cycles, which is the average. And keep in mind that Yun Li is one of the weakest DPSs in the entirety of version 2, and also has some of the weakest vertical investment as well. So this really does go to show you, damn, right? Like E0S0 version 2 characters are still clearing endgame content with multiple cycles left. Not really true that you need Eidolon investment or signature investment to be able to clear the endgame content, especially if you're one of those people out there that I've been seeing saying you need this shit for the newest characters, right? Because the newest characters are noticeably stronger as compared to the older ones, right? So, no, you don't need Eidolons and you don't need signature to be able to clear endgame content for a solid amount of time. These are premium pulls, okay? And especially with how strong Eidolon investment is these days, it is completely premium, completely optional, and it's all to make endgame content easier, not to just allow you to be able to clear. If this were true and characters were completely useless without a fully optimal team with optimal Eidolons and Lycone, I would have already quit this game a long fucking time ago. Don't get me wrong, this game has very bad power creep and HP inflation. I will always rightfully call that shit out. The fact that Cassie premium team is this much stronger than a Herta premium team, despite the fact that they're in the same version, is completely disgusting to me. But still, a Herta can clear, right? Multiple other units can clear. And I feel like this all ties back to zero cycle Brainrot. People think that if you don't get an incredibly low cycle clear at low cost, that all units are bricked. And I've never understood this, right? The perspective that people have on judging characters' value in HSR is astronomically different to open world games like Genshin or Wuwa, right? For example, in Wuwa, Acheron is older than Jian, by the way, but people praise the fuck out of Jian for being able to barely clear the newest endgame content with a little bit of time left. Right? Like, they praise that. They're like, oh my god, look at how power creep friendly Kuro is. Old unit 1.0 still being able to clear the endgame content. Keep in mind, Jing Yuan can do the same thing, and he's also from 1.0 Honkai Star Rail. Right? Now, this isn't to put the communities at war. This is to show people like the massive disparity in terms of the reception, because if you then bring up like Jing Yuan E0S0 being able to, I believe, 3 or 4 cycle with the free sustain Dan Heng now, alongside an E0S0 Sunday and E0S0 Robin against Japard, people will be like, oh my god, he's so power crept. Holy fuck, he sucks. Right? And then they do the exact same thing for Acheron as well. It's like, oh, you no S1, no Eidolons, like she just feels so bricked, I can't clear endgame content with her, right? It's very, very weird. And it's the same thing in Genshin too, right? Like, you have older characters, and sure, they may be washed, but so long as they can clear endgame content, people will still, like, talk well about them. It's only HSR, where, like, a character will still be able to get, like, a 3 or 4 cycle clear without the need of Eidolons or Lycone investment, and without needing, like, complete wheelchair, and people will be like, yeah, she's fucking bricked, she's done, right? If you use this character, holy fuck, she's useless. You need to get Eidolons, you need to get Lycone. Like, no, right? I am a channel that is completely based on basically like meta value and meta talk and what's the most optimal vertical investment. However, I don't make these videos because people need this investment to be able to clear. I make these videos to make people's life playing the game even easier than it already is, right? Like, for example, how I've recommended to many people to do with Phanon, getting an E2S0 Phanon, that guy is going to completely shit on current endgame content. If my E0 Phanon with an E0S0 Sunday, RMC, and E0S0 Dan Heng half-assedly built is getting a 2 cycle against Japard, you can imagine an E2S0 Phanon with actual decent relic investment and also traces maxed on all the supports on the team would be able to last probably the next 2 years plus if the goal is simply being able to clear endgame content well enough. people vastly over exaggerate how fast this game makes older units useless, and I feel like a prime example of this is probably Ruan Mei. People talk shit about Ruan Mei all the time, and every time I talk about Ruan Mei's general solid value, people completely shit on her on my channel, which is understandable because I am a channel mainly based around meta shit. But like, I used Ruan Mei with my E2 Cassie even before I got Evernight, and that E2 Cassie was still able to zero cycle Japard, right? Like, it really just doesn't matter how old she is, because even if she has been power crept, she still has good use for simply clearing endgame content, and the same applies to some of these older DPSs. Blade also got buffed, so he's way stronger. If your goal is only clearing 5 cycles, Blade should be able to do that quite well for you. Same goes for Jing Liu. There's only like a handful of version 1 DPSs that genuinely feel almost like fucking useless against the current endgame content. So yeah, that's my opinion on all that. I think it is greatly over-exaggerated how fast Honkai Star Rail makes older units useless, and I do think that this is attributed towards people simply being lazy and not learning how to play the game or understand the game in the slightest. Because despite what a lot of people say and what I've seen of, you know, open world games have more skill, how can you have a skill issue in a turn-based, you need to constantly change your rotation and what, you know, relics you use for your characters to play more optimally depending on the enemy lineup there is in the end game you're tackling. So it's more knowledge based in HSR, where you need to be knowledgeable enough to always adapt to the enemy lineups. Whereas you look at a game like, let's say, Wuwa, I'm not disrespecting it, once again, I'm not trying to start war, but if you just learn how to do a mono fusion rotation, you unga bunga that rotation for the rest of your life against all enemy lineups, and it's very, very likely that that will be the most effective way to clear endgame content throughout that entire fucking year, 2 year long time period, right? This is simply how I think about it. HSR, at least personally, was way more difficult for me to understand and actually learn how to play correctly as compared to some of these open world games where it's more mechanical gameplay based, because you can easily just practice and learn a rotation within probably half a day to a day. To download all the knowledge you need in HSR of understanding characters, their kits, how certain things can mesh, how all the buffs work, it would probably take most people like months, even if they tried to speedrun it as fast as they could. Right. Let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comments. Do you think zero cycle brain rot is also a real thing? I think it's a real thing, and it's growing exponentially as of late. I mean, there are people who genuinely think, who watch my videos, that characters, new ones, are bricked without Eidolon and Lycone investment. People need to understand this shit is for the premium of the premium. It's not a necessity, and the only reason you think that way is probably because it's incredibly enticing, and that's the entire point of what Hoyo wants to do. They want to make you feel FOMO for those Eidolons and Lycones as much as possible. Love you all. Hope you have a great day. Hope you have a great night. Peace out.